The concepts of the chain of command and obedience to orders are vital to military competence and success. However, throughout military history, there have been instances where individuals disregard orders for various reasons, which ultimately turned out to be the best decision they made. In this article, we will explore some examples of people who changed history by disobeying orders. If you enjoy military topics, make sure to subscribe to the Caleen channel and let us know in the comments what other topics you would like to hear about. Now, let's dive into some intriguing stories from history. The Cuban Missile Crisis, which took place during the 13 days of October 1962, nearly led to a devastating nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. The fact that the USSR supplied missiles to Cuba was an absolutely legal matter and permitted by international law. Despite this, the American press published a number of critical articles about preparations in Cuba. On September 4th, U.S. President John Kennedy made a statement that the United States will not tolerate the deployment of strategic surface-to-surface missiles and other types of offensive weapons in Cuba. On September 25, 1962, Fidel Castro announced that the Soviet Union intended to create a base in Cuba for its fishing fleet. During this crisis, an incident occurred where a Soviet submarine captain, Valentin Savitsky, mistakenly believed that war had begun and ordered the launch of a nuclear missile. Luckily, another officer, Vasily Alexandrovich Arkhipov, persuaded Savitsky to disregard the order, ultimately averting a nuclear war. In 1983, another incident occurred during the Soviet missile crisis. Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov, stationed at the Serpukhov 15 bunker near Moscow, detected what seemed to be an incoming American missile. Instead of following protocol, Petrov and his staff independently decided it was a false alarm. Their intuition turned out to be correct, as it was discovered that the system had been triggered by the sun reflecting off the clouds. Petrov's decision not to launch a counterattack potentially saved billions of lives. Desmond Doss, a combat medic in World War II, refused to carry a gun due to religious beliefs, despite facing criticism from his fellow soldiers. Doss proved his bravery by saving approximately 75 wounded soldiers under heavy gunfire during the Battle of Okinawa. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, becoming the first conscientious objector in World War II to receive such an honor. Lieutenant Thomas Diver Derrick, a highly decorated soldier in the Australian Army, defied his commanding officer's order to retreat during the Battle of Saddleburg in New Guinea in 1943. Derrick's determination and leadership proved instrumental in the battalion's progress. These inspiring stories showcase individuals who, by disregarding orders, made crucial decisions that altered the course of history. Lieutenant David Tyke sent for tanks to the aid of another unit, ignoring orders to withdraw on April 22, 1951. The Chinese Army launched the Spring Offensive against American forces during the Korean War, sending 300,000 troops to attack American positions. 2 days later, with the American forces routed, a unit of the 8th Ranger Company was caught behind the attacking lines. His commander E.K. Rivera radioed for help, but the remaining American troops decided to retreat. Rivera and his 65 men would have been doomed, if not for Lt. Dave Tyke disobeying his captain. Tyke sent for tanks to Rivera's position at Hill 628 and recovered the stranded Rangers. General Dietrich von Schultz refused to burn Paris when his troops evacuated the city. When Allied forces successfully invaded northern France on D-Day on June 6, 1944, and then attempted to take Paris in August, Hitler ordered local troops to burn down much of the city to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. This included the destruction of bridges, important war-related sites, and even iconic buildings of Paris such as Notre Dame Cathedral and the Arc de Triomphe. The commander of the German First Army, General Dietrich von Choltitz, refused to comply. In his 1951 memoirs, von Choltitz stated that he believed the orders had no military value and that Hitler was mentally ill. However, some French observers argued that Choltitz simply did not have enough troops to carry out the orders and that he later tried to rethink the situation to save his reputation. During World War I, Colonel Raoul Berube, an artillery commander, defied the orders of his superior to fire upon his own soldiers. This act of bravery by Berube highlighted the significant technological advancements brought about by the First World War, particularly the widespread use of the machine gun. Machine guns, with their superior firing capabilities, allowed armies to inflict heavy casualties from a distance. This, along with artillery improvements, necessitated a change in military tactics from large-scale bayonet attacks to trench warfare. However, this shift took time to fully materialize, as machine guns were initially employed by commanders. On March 7, 1915, the French 336th Infantry Regiment was commanded to launch an assault on fortified positions held by German machine gunners. The relentless attacks continued for 2 days until General Gerard Revillac, the division commander, ordered another offensive. However, the soldiers of the 21st Company refused to comply. In a fit of rage, Revillac demanded that his artillery commander, Colonel Berube, fire upon his own troops. Astonishingly, Berube also refused to carry out this horrifying command. Several days later, when four corporals failed to breach the 150-yard stretch of no man's land to cut the barbed wire and turned back, Revillac ordered their execution. This particular event was later depicted in Stanley Kubrick's film, Paths of Glory. Revillac continued to lead the regiment until February 1916, when he was asked to take a 3-month leave following the cessation of hostilities. Revillac earned the distinguished title of Grand Officer of the Legion of Honor and retired with great honors. The death of Augustus resulted in a mutiny among Roman soldiers stationed along the Rhine, posing a serious crisis for the empire. Although mutinies involve acts of disobedience, the mutiny on the Rhine, 14 AD, stands out as one of the most memorable due to its potential to destabilize the entire Roman Empire. Towards the end of Emperor Augustus' reign, which lasted from 27 BC to 14 AD, the Roman military was primarily focused on suppressing a rebellion in Illyria, northwestern Balkans, between 6 and 09 AD. This redirection of forces ultimately led to the catastrophic loss of 3 vulnerable legions in the Teutoburg Forest in Germany. To replenish their depleted ranks, the Roman military brought back veterans and conscripted freed slaves. By 14 AD, the Pannonian legions were comprised of soldiers who had either been conscripted after their initial service or were not regular soldiers at all. Consequently, many of them were dissatisfied and felt ignored in terms of their rights. However, despite their discontent, these soldiers remained loyal to Augustus, who had enlisted them into the army and possessed immense power over the empire he had helped establish. Upon Augustus' death, the legions stationed along the Rhine River rebelled. The uprising initially began with the Via Laude and 21 Rapax legions, where soldiers began killing their commanding officers, and swiftly spread to the I German and XX Victorious legions. The responsibility of quelling the mutiny on the Rhine fell to Germanicus, the son of Tiberius' brother Drusus and a highly regarded former military leader, Germanicus managed to temporarily pacify the mutinous soldiers by agreeing to immediately release those who had served in at least 20 campaigns, and compensating them accordingly. When Tiberius dispatched a delegation from the Senate to investigate the mutiny, the legions revolted once again. This time, the soldiers even threatened the pregnant wife of Germanicus, Agrippina, who happened to be the granddaughter of Augustus, as well as their young son Gaius, commonly known by his childhood nickname, Caligula. In response, Germanicus admonished them for endangering the lives of Augustus' descendants. This caused a crack in the rebels' resolve, leading to the execution of their leaders. Subsequently, Germanicus successfully led the previously rebellious soldiers on an expedition across the Rhine, reaffirming their loyalty